This LoreHound.com video is brought to you by...
Number 1, read the line.
You will behold the glory of my sacred wood.
That's not him.
Okay. Number 2, read the line.
You will behold the glory of my sacred wood.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Number 3.
You will behold the glory of my sacred wood.
That's him.
Every year, 1 in 5 gamers is accosted by an elf. We're tired of elves.
What's up, Lorehounds? It's Goopy here. We're with Eric Flanham of ArenaNet. He just gave us a Guild Wars 2 demo. You should check out that video first. It has a lot of stuff. We're not going to go over the stuff that he spent so much time and effort covering, but we're going to touch upon some questions that were inspired by what we had from the demo. So one of the big things was we obviously saw the voiceover that started with our personal story and you mentioned that there's something like 60 movies worth of script in there. So are most of those voiceover for the story, or do we get a lot of that for all the other kind of extraneous
It's kind of everywhere. So there's voiceover in the kind of general rule is anything that's like a cinematic situation has voiceover. Anything that's a character where you'd have chat bubble above the head has voiceover associated with it. There's only actually one situation where we really don't do voiceover, and that's when you talk to a character and you get in kind of a conversation tree. That tends to not have voiceover.
And that would be something you'd actually making decision choices.
Yeah, you're making choices and that sort of thing. And the reason we didn't feel the need to voice that stuff is because we felt like, well, people tend to read faster than they can hear things being said, and so in that situation where you've got a bunch of text in front of you, you maybe aren't going to even wait until the voiceover happens, and you want to keep clicking by it and make the choice. Yeah, you want to continue on. And the second thing is, that's really a kind of an intimate sort of setting, and so a lot of times you do maybe want to take your time and read it a lot more thoroughly. And so we tend to use voiceover in situations, like I said, the overhead chat, because what that does is it does kind of two things for us mainly, which the first is it helps you immerse you in the world. I hope it was evident when you're walking around, there's a lot of kind of ambient voice going on and stuff like that, and it makes the world feel alive. And the second thing that it does is we use it to provide instruction. So for example, when you run up to the garrison, you hear the guy tell you the garrison gates have been closed and then you have to wait for them to open. And we do that. You could also go talk to that guy and he'll tell you the exact same thing. But we have the voiceover part of it because we realize there are players who, they really don't read stuff and they don't want to read stuff. And so it's one way that we can use to kind of get through to them and communicate to them. So
the art styles are great. I love the different 2D, 3D cinematics you have in there. It's very interesting. And then of course you have the normal gameplay is great as well. One of the things you did mention was that you're going to have a good range of system requirements. But I guess the question I should ask, so we saw this footage running pretty beautifully during the demo. What kind of computer was the demo actually running on?
I'm not entirely certain. It's an Alienware system. It's a pretty top of the line system for right now. I don't think it's like the max that you can get, but it's a very, very good system. So I have an Alienware laptop also that runs the game similarly. So we're running on kind of the system that's just a really good system right now, like a really, really good system, but not, I don't think it's the maximum possible strength system that you can get right now.
Two of the, I guess, the kind of the recurring knocks on the original Guild Wars were the amount of instancing and like not open world feeling, and also invisible walls that you would run into. During the demo, we didn't hit a single invisible wall, and we also saw a very large world, and then when we went out on the map, a large scope. Especially even in the city. Are there any other big points in Guild Wars that you guys turned around?
So there is that. Obviously there's one other big one that we hear all the time, which was jumping. You can jump now, obviously. That one's very important to people.
They have
so and the second thing was just our combat system and our philosophy on that is a bit of a departure from Guild Wars in some ways. In some ways it's very much the same. But a lot of the complexity of skills in Guild Wars 1 were complexity that wasn't very visual. It was complexity that you had to
behind the scenes.
Yeah, it was behind the scenes. It was sort of spreadsheet complexity. It was, yeah. You had to really look at the skill description and read it, and that was because we had so many skills, and we actually had planned a system that was supposed to be extensible out, you know, sort of infinitely. And so you need lots of little variables in a system like that. And so one of the things that we've tried to do is substitute some of that sort of complexity for the complexity that we talked about of positioning and that sort of thing, for more things that are more visual, things that we think people have an easier time grasping, things that are more natural for people to understand. Things like, well, if I get behind a guy, I do more to him, right? Like that sort of thing. If I
dodge.
If I have a skill that hits everything in a line, I need to line guys up, right? Like, so you're constantly, instead of thinking about whether or not this percent skill is going to work this percent of the time or something like that, you're more thinking about, like, where am I in relation to these guys? The skill of playing has become a little bit more positional. Of course,
so it's less cooldown management, more
I mean, there is that too, right? Like, it's not like we wanted to eliminate that stuff, but we wanted to make it a little less hardcore, because it was pretty extreme in Guild Wars 1. So, and it was one of the things that I think people who were very, very new to the game would come into the game, and the game was just very, very intimidating because there were so many different skills. Yeah, and that's part of the reason why we made Guild Wars 2 in the first place, was to get a bit of a fresh start on things. So.
Yeah, that actually addressed the next question, which when we were playing the mage character, we didn't really see her using positioning to her advantage so much as more of a defensive mechanic, so she would dodge.
Yeah, and that was because of the skills she had. Like, she was an early character, and so we didn't want to put that stuff in people's faces right away. So eventually the mage will get all kinds of things, like you can switch to a scepter and you get this fire breath that breathes fire out in a cone, and and it's, you know, obviously you want to get guys lined up a particular way to maximize that. Things like there's you know, another fire dagger skill that hits in these kind of 3 lines, and so you want to, again, kind of line up the lines perfectly in order to get, you know, just the right sort of things. And then there's just things like there's a skill called Static Field that puts this circular area that if any enemies enter it or try to leave it, it stuns them. And if any warrior or ranger shoots through it, their bullets become electrified, or their arrows become electrified. That's one of the cross suppression combos. And so it's very important to position that thing properly, right, to maximize the effect of it. And that's where a lot of the skill comes in coordinating with other players and doing that sort of thing. Is, okay, there's a ranger standing right there, I'm going to put that in front of him so that any enemies who come in get, you know, electrified, and he can shoot them. And
it's not necessarily position of your character, but also where you put your spells.
Yeah, where you put your spells, where you target things, in addition to position of characters. Some of the characters feature that more than others. So Ranger with a short bow, for example, can do more damage with his basic skill if he's behind or to the side of the character. And so the short bow is actually a super mobile weapon, and so it's all about flanking and trying to get behind, that sort of thing.
One last quick question. So we saw that anyone can basically resurrect someone who's down, not dead. And do healers maybe get like a perk for that kind of thing, or would they be able to do it faster?
There are certain professions that, so we talked about that second 5 set of skills. So there are certain professions that are able to get skills that allow them to get people up in kind of different ways. The warrior has a skill called I Will Avenge You, where he uses that. It's a famous skill from Guild Wars 1, actually, but it works completely differently in Guild Wars 2, where he yells that, and then if he kills the guy, kills anybody while an ally is fallen in the area, that ally will get back up. Automatically. So and while the warrior has it on, if he kills multiple guys, he can get multiple allies to come back up. So it's that sort of thing. Like, so there are different professions that have different perks, but everybody has that basic functionality built in.
So just a couple, feature points. We have 8 classes incoming, 4 of them we know. They're all on the website. Necromancer being the latest we discussed. How many races are there?
5 races.
5 races.
Yeah, and we've announced all of those.
Okay. So. And then we also just heard at the beginning of PAX, you guys announced that you're going to be making a iPad, iPhone,
and Android
app.
Yeah.
And it's going to be able to let you chat and watch your guildmates, talk to them, cross game even.
Yeah. So it'll work Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2 as well. So you can chat with people. You're going to be able to chat with people from either game or from the web or from one of those apps to people in the game. So yeah, it'll work across all those games.
And that's probably going to be a premium feature that'll just be like a one-time purchase.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. We would like to not have it be a purchase for people, but if in case we need to protect ourselves from fraud or from people spamming and things like that, we might have to charge.
Making us pay.
Yeah, they always do. We might have to charge a really minimal amount. But that's all we would ever do. There's definitely not going to be any monthly fee. There's not going to be hidden sort of in-app purchases that are like, oh, well, you just basically get something that's a skeleton of what it is, and then to make it really cool, you need to do all these additional purchases. That's not what we're interested in doing. What we're trying to do is really provide more value for people who buy the game. Okay. We really consider this to be something that's just part of the game that people buy.
Could it be even possibly like a pre-order perk?
I don't know. We haven't discussed what our pre-order perks are yet. We're kind of a ways away from that. So
that is true.
So you never do know. Yeah.
And the game looks fantastic. We've talked about it on the MMO cast a whole bunch. Wait and see to see if everything they've talked about is going to come to fruition. It really looks like it is. We saw a whole bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the better MMOs we've seen here at PAX.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
And release date is
when it's ready.
When it's ready.
Yeah.
So not even 2011. Just
no. Can't say. Yeah.